Welcome. Good morning, Arizona. Waking up on a Saturday morning. You're listening to the Business to Business Network show. My name is Rex Perry. I am the host and creator of the show. And what we do is talk about business, mostly real estate. We talk a lot about real estate. That seems to be the heartthrob business of Arizona. But today we are honored to have Sarah as a guest on our show. Sarah, give us your last name. Give us a little bit of background introduction.
My name is Sarah Strunk, and I'm the chairman of Fennemore Craig, a law firm here, started in Arizona with a 130-year history in the state. We have offices in Colorado and Nevada, and I am a business and finance lawyer.
And I found we have a little bit of an association with the Phoenix Business Journal, and recently there was kind of a panel discussion about raising funds for startup businesses in Arizona. Give us a little bit about what that was about. It was a few months ago.
It was, Rex. It was a roundtable of private equity and venture capital funds in Arizona, and what we were talking about was what the climate is like for capital raising in Arizona and what we thought the current prospects were for capital formation in Arizona.
And then that kind of led into an interesting conversation you and I were having about Senator David Farnsworth doing some legislation. Tell the audience a little bit about what's happening down at the Capitol.
Sure. Out of the roundtable, one of the items of discussion that came up was the current status of Arizona's securities regulatory laws, and in particular the laws that regulate investment advisors of these types of investment funds. And two of the lawyers on the panel, including myself, had commented that Arizona's laws were significantly out of date at this time. And Senator Farnsworth and Senator Farley both had picked up on this and decided that they wanted to hear more about it. And so they invited me down to the Capitol to talk about the exemption that most of the states have passed for private funds and venture capital funds below a certain dollar amount. And so I did that, and I let them know that this was an exemption that most of the states who are significant recipients of venture capital funds and private equity funds had already had this exemption, but Arizona did not.
Now, this is really important to the business community. Anybody that's an entrepreneur that's coming up with a different type of idea, smartphone apps, technology, creative ideas that can actually help our economy move forward. And the challenge is it seems like seems to be a lot of venture capital up in the Silicon Valley, and yet down here in Arizona, we don't get much of that, and yet we have lots of good ideas and entrepreneurs. So the effort here is to try to figure out a way to help these people get funding and get basically the seed capital to get started. Is that where we're kind of going with this?
Rex, you're spot on. I mean, as you know, private equity and venture capital provide a crucial source of financing for all businesses in Arizona. It is the natural stage of financing any business. And what we have in Arizona is a regulatory system that says to these types of investment funds that if you decide to come to Arizona and open an office, you're going to be regulated here, no matter what. And that's what we're talking about, saying that, you know, we're open for business in Arizona. If you're a specific type of fund that doesn't need the regulatory oversight, we're going to allow you to operate here on an exempt basis. Now, we're not against regulation. The regulation is there for a good reason to protect people from fraud, but these are unique types of funds that have sophisticated investors in them that really don't need the regulatory protections that the general public would need. And right now we don't have that ability, and any fund that would be looking at the laws of Arizona would say that I don't want an open office there and subject myself to regulation where if I just open an office in Colorado or even New Mexico, I would not be regulated. Or California. So that's what we're trying to address, and that's what Senator Farnsworth and Farley were interested in, is why is it that we're regulating these types of funds when other states are not?
And you've got an interesting kind of anecdotal story of a very sophisticated group. Tell us a little bit about that. They're actually involved with overseas. Tell us that story.
Yeah, well, we a number of years ago we represented a basically a family's investment fund, and significant wealthy family of billions of dollars who decided they'd open an office in Arizona. And they were doing investment just for the family members and very senior executives of a company. And we, again, thought this is one of those cases where you really don't need regulatory oversight. These people are extremely sophisticated. They're hiring their own investment advisors to invest their own money. And so, given the state of our law, we had to write to the Corporation Commission to seek an exemption. And to our surprise and dismay, they did not grant an exemption because the law is very clear. If you have an office here, you're not entitled to an exemption, even though they can grant one in their discretion. So this is the type of fund that, that we shouldn't even have to ask. We should be able to go to the client and say, you meet this definition of a private fund with a certain number of assets in it, and therefore you're exempt under Arizona law.
See, this is fantastic because getting the business community involved with the legislation that sometimes gets passed, and some of the stuff doesn't make sense, but the bureaucrats have to enforce the law the way that it's written, and it just needs this type of business partnership with the government to make things more smooth. Now, could we get contact information for you? We're about to wrap up here. For if people would like to call and get some assistance from your law firm, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
You can find us at fclaw.com, and you can find my name on the web and all my contact information. But I would encourage folks to go to the Corporation Commission, who regulates securities. They currently have a docket open to make a rule to provide for this exemption, and Commissioner Faris is leading this effort, and I encourage anyone who's interested to participate.
Terrific. We appreciate you being a guest on our show, Sarah. We'll stay in touch and get updates. And we're going to have David Farnsworth, Senator David Farnsworth, is going to be a guest next month, so we're going to get an update from there, too.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. We've got to do a commercial break here. 123bz.com is our website. If you want any information, we'll hook you up. 123bz.com. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back.